LSV. It contains strong language, sexual situations, and violence. It is intended only for mature audiences.
Finally, show with the balls to call it like it is. Rated R Safety Show on Safety FM.
Countdown to audio torture.
The Rated R Safety Show starts in 3, 2, 1.
Let the eardrum pain begin.
Forget the corporate bullshit. This is the Rated R Safety Show with your host, Dr. It doesn't matter who the host is.
Oh, I have so said that for so many years at this particular point. It does not matter who the host is. What matters is who the listeners are, who the viewers are, and what the hell is going on in your neck of the woods. Those are the things that matters the most as we are talking. Anyways, today is Friday, January the 27th of 2023, day 27th of the year, just in case if you were lost in that sequence of events. There's only 330 days, or 338 days remaining before we get into this whole mess of things that we have going on. Anyways, we are broadcasting live and in living color from the Safety FM studios in Orlando, Florida. And we are hanging out with our friends and colleagues at that other place that we do stuff at.
If you ever wished that Facebook had a suck it button, you suck! This rock block is for you. Warning, listening to other radio stations could cause testicle shrinkage.
I'm talking the truth.
Okay, so that's what's going on the end of Radio Big, if you are taking a look-see-ooksy. So let's start talking right away about some of the things that are happening in the multiverse, not the multiplex, but the multi-systems that we have going on in our world, Dudo, because that's going to be important as we are talking, hanging out, and doing all the fun stuff. So as we are streaming live and in living color, yes, you can actually come and hang out with us by going to callinradio.com. That's callinradio.com. That'll get you moving and grooving on this side of the sequence of events. Also, as you are doing all that fun stuff of hanging out, you can do the video chat, you can do the audio, you can do all the fun stuff that you want to do. So don't worry about anything that is going on inside of that neck of the woods, because that's the whole point. It's for you to hang out and do all of the stuff that you want. Because listen, if we didn't have it in that format, there is really no point, Dudo, in regards of doing this. I mean, let's just be realistic. So there you go, as we are talking. So if you're not familiar with the show, it is Freeform Friday. That's what we do on Friday. So we talk a little bit about everything that's going on. So we talk about this, we talk about that. Mostly we are a show that talks about safety, and we talk about the news, and we talk about news and safety and all that kind of fun stuff. So it is interessante as we get to do that. So there you go. So let me tell you this, because, you know, I like to keep it real with you. Our software on how we do the show has been extremely updated since yesterday. So you are aware that we normally screw up pretty often. Expect all kinds of screw ups today, because that's what I keep on looking at this multiverse of cameras, of things that are going on. There's so many me's that I see across the screen. It's scary. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 of me on the screen, and it's just scary. I don't like looking at that much of myself. So there you go. So let's start talking right away about the things that we saw that were trending in the overnight, because I think that that's going to be important.
Here is what was trending. Rated R Safety Show.
Okay, so in taking a look around of the trends of the ends, we're going to need to start talking. We're going to need to start talking about everything that is going on, because that's going to be important. So what we saw, science reveals surprising beverage to help recover from an intense workout, and it's a roundup on the major stock and booms and busts. We'll talk a little bit about more of that on what we have called the shit list. Also, an event on Thursday, President Joe Biden was on the way off on the UX tax code. Why? We'll talk a little bit more about that in the swamp. Britney Spears addresses fans' concerns here in a little bit. And actor Reggie Jean Page is one of Handsome Human. We can talk about that in showbiz if we decide to go down that. And we'll go down the whole path of things that we do talk about. So listen, we're broadcasting right now on Safety FM and on Radio Big. If you want to watch the video aspect, you can do that. I don't know if you should put yourself through that kind of torture, but it is something that you're able to do. There is no doubt about that as we do talk about it. What I normally recommend is that if you have to jump from platform to platform, you can do so. You can do that by using the Safety FM app. You can use that by doing the iHeartRadio app. So there is some motion in the ocean in regards of doing some differential things as you can lay those particular things out. So we do bring in some professional broadcasters for them to tell you exactly what's going on, so you don't have to worry about that aspect of the world. So as they talk to you, we get to take a listen to what is going on. We have all kinds of different ones, so that's kind of the cool part here. So as they are talking, if you don't like the flavor of one, there is other flavors that do come about, so don't worry about that particular aspect. All kinds of new stuff to cover today, because what else would we do? Besides that, of course, besides that, what the hell would we do? So with that being said, let's get you started right away inside of the world of the news. And remember, we're going all over the place today because, hey, it is Freeform Friday. So here is the news.
Here is the news on the Rated R Safety Show.
And I guess I did fair warn you that there would be all kinds of cluster stuff. And look, now the computer has decided to act all weirdo. So let's try that again. Let's do the news.
NBC News Radio, I'm Michael Kastner. The attorneys for some of the ex-Memphis police officers involved in the violent arrest of Tyree Nichols say the officers are in shock. Blake Ballin is the attorney for ex-Memphis police officer Desmond Mills Jr.
It's put on a very strong facade, but I know underneath it all, this is causing him and his family a lot of anxiety and a lot of pain.
Nichols, a black man, died in the hospital days after a January 7th traffic stop involving the police officers, who are also black. The 5 officers are now facing murder charges. The attorneys say they have not seen the body cam video of the arrest, which is set to be released tonight. Major cities across the country are preparing for possible violent protests. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi isn't sure if she's going to watch upcoming body camera footage from the attack on her husband last year.
No, I don't even know if I will see it. I mean, it would be a very hard thing to see an assault on my husband's life.
She spoke to reporters Thursday. Paul Pelosi was beaten in their San Francisco home in October when David LePape broke in and began hitting him repeatedly with a hammer. The footage from an officer who responded to the brutal attack is expected to be released on Friday. DePape is pleading not guilty to multiple state and federal charges. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy is calling President Biden to the negotiating table over raising the debt ceiling. In a tweet just before Biden delivered a speech on the economy, McCarthy said Biden should set a date to discuss a responsible debt ceiling increase. Conservative Republicans are demanding spending cuts as a price for lifting the debt ceiling and averting a default. Weather forecasters say a storm that will dump snow across a broad stretch of the country this weekend will be the opening act for some really cold air next week. Snow is expected this weekend from the northern Rockies to parts of the northern and central plains and Great Lakes. 3 to 12 inches of snow is likely to pile up through Saturday. Michael Kastner, NBC News Radio.
Bringing you information you never knew you cared about. Rated R Safety Show.
At least one person is injured after an explosion on the USC campus in Los Angeles. Daniel Martindale with more.
The blast happened inside a science building at about 4 o'clock Thursday afternoon, sending one person to the hospital. Investigators later discovered a gas leak at the Neely Petroleum building. The building was cleared by firefighters and later reopened. The person who was injured was able to leave the building and meet with first responders under their own power.
Heart-related deaths in the U.S. rose by more than 50,000 during the first year of the COVID-19 pandemic. Mark Mayfield reports.
That's according to a report from the American Heart Association. Final figures released by the association showed more than 54,000 Americans died from cardiovascular-related causes in 2020, making it the worst year for heart-related deaths in 5 years. The Heart Association said the numbers reflect both the direct and indirect impacts of COVID-19 on heart health. I'm Mark Mayfield.
NASA workers, guests, and families of the Challenger, Columbia, and Apollo 1 crews honored the fallen astronauts Thursday during the space agency's Day of Remembrance at the Johnson Space Center. Casey Anderson is the daughter of Michael Anderson, one of the 7 astronauts killed when the Space Shuttle Columbia exploded February 1st, 2003.
They were doing what they loved and what they were passionate about, and I think that's what I want people to remember as well. Yes, it was a sad event, but I don't always want people to look back on it and feel sad. I'd rather people feel inspired by it.
Saturday marks 37 years since the Space Shuttle Challenger exploded minutes after liftoff on January 28, 1986. 3 astronauts died in a cabin fire during the launch rehearsal of Apollo 1 on January 27, 1967. Gas prices are idling today. AAA reports the national average price for regular remains at $3.50 a gallon. Michael Kastner, NBC News Radio.
You are listening to a radio god. What? This has to be an error. That host is not a radio god. Anyways, this is the Rated R Safety Show on Safety FM.
Let's start using cutting-edge warp speed 5G technology with your cell phone. Let me tell you about my friends at mobilemobile.io. They have an ultra-fast 4G LTE and 5G network that covers 99% of Americans. So they've got you covered everywhere. Think about it for a moment. You have the opportunity to take a test drive for 10 days with unlimited talk, text, and premium data. What is premium data? Premium data is an allotment of a cellular data that you receive from a higher priority on the network. You won't get throttled like you will with some of those, well, non-brand service providers. To find out more information, all you have to do is go to mobilemobile.io. That's mobilemobile.io to start your 10-day free trial.
Okay, man.
Hello.
This is your time. Maybe you didn't choose this, but you're here now. You're gonna go out there and be an all-star caregiver. It's up to you. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna go grocery shopping, cook, clean, be there emotionally and physically. You gotta dig deeper. Drive them to physical therapy, doctor's appointments. Don't you forget about the pharmacy. I know you won't, because that's what caregivers do. Don't give up. Don't ever give up. This is your time to show the world, your family, and yourself that you're tougher than tough. Now go out there and be the best caregiver this world has ever seen. Caregiving is tougher than tough. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Danica Patrick and proud aunt. Watching my nieces grow, play, and learn is amazing. But not every child gets to be carefree. 1 in 6 kids in the U.S. are hungry. 1 in 6. That little girl sitting alone at the playground, she can't play like the other kids. She doesn't have the energy because she's hungry. School lunch will be her only meal today. It breaks my heart that this is the reality in our country, but it's something that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste. This food is then provided to families and children in need. Being a kid should be about using your imagination, learning, and having fun. These children shouldn't have to miss out on simply being a kid because they're hungry. To find out how you can help end childhood hunger in your community, visit feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
So do you feel like you're missing out on what everyone is starting to do now, that live streaming thing, and you don't know where to start or what to do? I have the resource and the information to provide to you in regards on how you can stream onto 40 social media platforms all at one time. Yes, that's 40 social media platforms all at one time. All you'll need to do is go to safetyfm.com/1. That's safetyfm.com/1. That's ONE. So just in case, and you'll be able to start live streaming
just like you're hearing people starting to do right now, up to 40 social media platforms.
It's this show, and they just make fun of a whole bunch of people. It's just too funny. It's too stupid.
Rated R Safety Show.
Okay, there you go. Still broadcasting live from the Safety FM studios in Orlando, Florida. Let's see, currently 16 minutes past the top of the hour as you and I are doing our giggo, as we are hanging out and doing everything. So I have to tell you, if you notice, this week was the week where the speakers for the event, the safety event that takes place in June, found out if they were speaking or not. And I thought it was kind of amazing that we're in January and people are already like, hey, listen, I have an event that's coming up in Texas that you need to come and hear me speak that's taking place. And this is my session number. And all of a sudden, they are the selling point for you to go to this conference. So I don't know if you know this, but normally, unless you're on the planetary session or a keynote speaker or the closer, you don't get paid to do that. You go to that event, and unless it's a pre-event or a post-event, if you're at the main event itself, what they are getting is a free ticket to speak at that event for you and come to see them. So you're paying money for something that they're doing for free for you to get to see. It's always so convoluted, the whole thing. I mean, listen, I understand some people want to promote stuff 5-6 months ahead of time. You know, more power to you. But for you to say, hey, I have a 30-minute session and you should spend thousands of dollars to come and see me, can't we set something else up? I mean, I just kind of wonder. It's kind of an interesting thing. And fortunately or unfortunately, somebody released the graphics that shows I'm speaking at X event in June. And I don't know if that's a good thing for us to have ahead of time. It makes me want to do all kinds of weird stuff, but we can get into that a little bit later. I just think it's kind of funny that this is the world that we live in now, that I need to start talking about this event that I'm doing for free that you should come and see. I mean, I don't know. What do you think about this whole thing? Maybe I'm way off my rocker. I just sometimes don't know on some of these things.
Listen to our host of the Rated R Safety Show self-implode on our airwaves, only on Safety FM.
Okay, so let's get into the shit list, because that's the time that we're at right now for all the hand-wrangling about Elon Musk dividing his attention between Tesla and Twitter and his various other companies. The electric vehicle company announced record profits on Wednesday anyways. In an earnings call, the company said that it posted $3.7 billion in profits in the fourth quarter last year, a nearly 60% increase from year over year. The company also announced that there's surging demand for its vehicles after it deeply cut its prices. However, there is still a steep climb ahead to regain its footing after Tesla lost $675 billion in value over the last year. I did say $675 billion. Meanwhile, at Bed Bath & Beyond amid its bankruptcy considerations, Bed Bath & Beyond announced on Thursday its banks have shut off its credit lines after it default on payments. So, I mean, let's be honest though here. That is not a good sign for you whatsoever when we start talking about that. Meanwhile, at Hasbro, toy manufacturing company Hasbro announced that Thursday that it will lay off 15% of its workforce, amounting to about 1,000 jobs. The news comes after a period of a 17% decrease in revenue from year over year. So listen, I don't know if you're paying close attention to this, but we need to talk about it. We're talking about layoffs after layoffs after layoffs from companies. We're talking about from the tech sector. Now we're talking about manufacturing. Now we're actually even talking about somebody going under in particular regards that are dealing with the actual consumer purchasing. So it's getting weird out there. A lot of people are still kind of like, it's not as bad as you think. maybe we need to start giving some other considerations as we are talking. Anyways, let's get into the stars real quick. Astronomers have discovered a distant planet due to collide with its sun in about 3 million years. Due to collide with the sun in 3 million years. I hope we're not around at that time, but we'll see. Which is just a blink of an eye in the cosmic time scale. One that led the researchers on the project says observing this star will allow them to test theories about what happens when the sun swallows a planet, which is expected to happen to Earth in distant 5 billion years. There you go. I wonder how many times the Matrix will be redone by then. Okay, maybe that's a whole other story. Okay, a new study reveals a surprising beverage for recovering after an intense workout. It's a non-alcoholic beer. Yeah, take a listen to this. The researchers showed that drinking non-alcoholic beer 45 minutes before a workout helped keep the participants hydrated about as much as drinking water, and also kept up their levels of sodium and potassium. The combination of water and carbohydrates helped aid the metabolic recovery. The study concluded it also suggests such beverages are healthier than sports drinks. So listen, I don't know. I don't know what you drink. I don't know what you do. I mean, do you like beer? Good for you. If you don't, good for you as well. I think beer tastes terrible. So I can't imagine before a workout saying, let's drink a non-alcoholic beer. I remember I went to, we'll say a religious school when I was in high school, and a kid bought a beer, a non-alcoholic beer, when we were actually on a bus where we went to a stop. And I remember the teachers losing it, the chaperones losing it, thinking that he had a beer when it was all said and done. And you know that some things do tend to have alcohol in them anyways. Boy, was it the end of the world when those things happened.
Rated R Safety Show. Sarcastic? Never.
Okay, North Korea is locking down again, but there's not saying it's because of COVID. An official government notice orders that inhabitants to measure and report their temperature 4 times a day to a local hospital without apps and email to handle this. They must call in the information. Oh, wow. How would you like to be an operator there? Worth noting, this calls is procedures for special anti-epidemic period that they are blaming on flu and other respiratory diseases, but not specifically the word COVID. So it's not the word COVID on this particular one as we are talking. So think about that. The CDC reports that more than 2/3 of Americans aren't getting the recommended 20 minutes a day of average exercise. Are you? 20 minutes a day. That doesn't sound like a lot. There's all kinds of apps for that. Anyways, worth noting, the data comes from the 2020 survey, and the lockdown certainly affected people's ability to get to a gym. Listen, I don't think you need a gym. You can use a gym. Don't get me wrong. But I'm going to tell you, when you start thinking about some of the deadliest people on the planet, they're in the military. And I mean that with the most respect possible. Guess what they use? They use this thing called body weight. You heard it all here. Yes, that's live in breaking news. Maybe we should get a breaking news button. It is body weight. So you can do it with weights or you can do it without weights. The choice is yours. You have some options. I think the world has changed significantly all of a sudden now that I said this, right? Think about that for just a moment.
Safety never sounded so terrible.
Rated R Safety Show.
Okay, so let's talk real quick about some of the new stuff that's coming on to the streaming, the video on demand platforms. If you're going to hang out this weekend and not do much of anything. So what's streaming? Well, new to Amazon Prime will be Shotgun Wedding. That's available. The King's Speech. That's also another one that will be available. New to Hulu will be Man Eater. That one has a score of 17%. I don't know if I want to sit around and watch that. The Deer King is another one. And then new to Netflix will be You People. Yeah, that's what it's called. You People. So there you go. Take a listen to this real quick. We're going to go through this here. Does President Joe Biden know the tax code for the country that he runs? Here he is yesterday addressing the crowd hosted at the Stem Fitters Union in Springfield, Virginia. Take a listen to what he had to say.
To $139,000, you pay slightly more the more you make, but it stops there. And so if you're making $1 billion, you pay the same amount you're paying if you made $139,000. I think it's $139,000. Well, guess what? Keep the same percentage or something like it. Make sure that nobody making.
So that's what he had to say. So up to $139,000, you pay slightly more taxes than what you make. But if you stop there, so then if you make $1 billion, you pay the same amount of that if you're making $139,000. Well, this is incorrect. An individual making $139,000 a year pays 24% marginal tax rate. This bracket ranges from $89,000 to $170,000, and it's right in the middle tax bracket that you'll go up to 37% for individuals earning $539,000. The last time someone making $139,000. So there you go. So the amount that Biden uses, the example paid for the taxes was back in 1983. So there you go. How is this man possible to negotiate in the country's tax policy to manage the finances if he doesn't have the simple grasp of the tax bracket? Listen, I understand things can get convoluted from time to time, but maybe it's some things to think about when you are talking about that. Maybe it was, maybe you should have done a little bit more practice on what the hell was going on opposed to spewing some numbers that you weren't 100% sure of. These things happen, but I'm not speaking in front of a large audience in doing that. Think about that next time. Anyways, here's from John Smalls giving you some numbers on what the hell was going on in the market.
Here's your Market Beat Minute for Friday, January 27th, 2023. The Q4 GDP came in at 2.9%. That's a tenth hotter than expected on strong labor conditions and consumer health. The takeaway is that the underlying strength in the economy is supporting activity among the S&P 500 companies, but also inflation. The recent downtick in inflation is good news, but may not be sustainable given the economic strength. In this light, the market's expectations for only a 25 basis rate hike at the next FOMC meeting might be misplaced. The entire outlook could change today upon the release of the December PCE price index, which is expected to confirm the downtick in consumer-level inflation, but the data will most likely be mixed. While year-over-year comparisons will cool, inflation is expected to have accelerated on a month-to-month basis and may come in hot. In this scenario, the odds of a 25 basis point hike will crater, and the S&P 500 could fall with it. You could get the inside track from Wall Street's brightest minds delivered directly to your inbox every day at MarketBeatMinute.com.
Okay, thank you, John Smalls, for the information as you're coming in hot right there. There you go, talking about all that kind of fun stuff. So take a listen to this. The Dow added about 205 points to close at 33,949. The S&P added about 44 points to close at 4,060, while the NASDAQ added about 199 points to close at 11,512. West Texas Intermediate closed at $81 a barrel, and Brent crude closed at $87. The national average price of a gallon of gas was $3.50 on Thursday. Bitcoin was volatile, but ultimately mostly flat on Thursday, trading just over $23,000. What else did we see on that equation as we are talking? Well, what else? It went like this. There was 4,040 flights delayed within, into, and out of the United States, and more than 215 such cancellations. Tonight's Mega Million drawing will be for $20 million or a $10.5 million cash payout. Saturday night's Powerball drawing will be for $572 million jackpot or a $308.9 million cash payout. So if you want to play the game, there is time to do so. So let's talk about this real quick because there was some things that came out earlier that we were briefly talking about. So I'll mention this real quick. Britney Spears appreciates the concerns, but says that she does not need checking up on her. In a statement, the singer said that officers showing up to her gate in the middle of the night made her feel bullied going forward, that she has asked that everyone respect her privacy. As previously reported, several fans called the Ventura County Sheriff's Office this week, concerned about Britney Spears deleting her Instagram. Brit's full statement, on the matter, she posted nothing. So there you go. I get very concerned about this. Like, you're so concerned that someone deleted their Instagram account that you decided that somebody needs to go do a check on them because they're no longer on Instagram. Listen, I get it. I get that, certain things need to happen, but it is a social media account. They decided to delete it. This is not the first time that she's done that. And I'm pretty sure it won't be the last time. And all of a sudden, for you to do the call of, hey, we need to have somebody go out there and do a checky-ecky of what the hell's going on, it makes it kind of interesting. There is no doubt about it as we are talking about this. What do you think? Do you think it kind of makes you question some things in life? Because it makes me question some things, that's for sure. So there you go. Anyways, currently 31 minutes past the top of the hour. So normally, if this was not the Freeform Friday version, we would do something here that we would call our main story. But because it is not that kind of thing, we are going to do some things that are going on around the world.
Here is the news on the Rated R Safety Show.
Feature story news in London. I'm Julia Chapman. There's growing concern over the situation in Israel and the Palestinian territories after a significant escalation in violence, with 9 Palestinians killed during an IDF raid in Jenin on Thursday. In response, 2 rockets were fired from the Gaza Strip into southern Israel, with the Israeli Defense Forces carrying out airstrikes on the Strip. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is set to travel to the region on Sunday in a bid to calm the situation. Meanwhile, Britain's finance minister has dismissed talk of decline in the UK in a major speech setting out his economic thinking. Jeremy Hunt says he wants to make the UK the next Silicon Valley, with a major focus on boosting tech investment. The Chancellor says the country needs to take advantage of opportunities from Brexit, which many experts argue has held the economy back.
Just this month, columnists from both left and right have talked about an existential crisis, Britain teetering on the edge, and that all we can hope for is that things don't get worse. And I say simply this: declinism about Britain is just wrong.
International Holocaust Remembrance Day is being marked around the world in memory of the victims of the Nazis. In the UK, a new exhibition featuring portraits of survivors has opened at the Imperial War Museum North in Manchester. 98-year-old Marianne Phillips was born in Germany but now lives in Manchester and lost nearly all of her family in the Holocaust.
What happened to us happened at a fairly young age. We managed to adjust, and all of us created a new life, a new families. Obviously, you never forget. But I'm alive. I was fortunate enough to escape Auschwitz.
World Health Organization officials are meeting in Geneva to mull whether the COVID-19 pandemic still constitutes a public health emergency of international concern. The WHO's Emergencies Committee is expected to issue a statement with their recommendations to the organization's Director General. Rosie Burchard has more.
It's almost 3 years to the day since the World Health Organization declared that COVID-19 represented a global health emergency. The WHO's Director General, Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, says the world is now in much better shape than when the pandemic first hit. But speaking at a media briefing on Tuesday, Dr. Tedros said he remained concerned about COVID, arguing too few people are adequately vaccinated worldwide and too many don't receive the right care. Rosie Burchard, Brussels.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks, looking today at heightened tensions between Greece and Turkey. The Turks are accusing the Greeks of provocative actions over their armament of some disputed islands in the Aegean. Ankara has protested the move, saying it breaches agreements signed in 1923 and 1947. But the Greeks have won US backing, with the Biden administration proposing to sell Athens F-35 fighter jets. Stephen Cook of the US-based Council on Foreign Relations says the domestic politics of Turkey, where a presidential election will take place in May, is playing into the current uptick in rhetoric.
The Turks really have engaged in this rhetoric and warning that the Greeks are arming these islands in violation of international treaties. A lot of this is really electoral game playing. that President Erdogan is in the unusual position. He's relatively politically weak going into polls. In head-to-head races with a number of other leading politicians, he loses. So he's been pushing every button and pulling every possible lever to garner support. And, Turkish nationalism is one of those things. And the Aegean and the Greeks are an obvious place to push these buttons and pull these levers.
But the Greeks and the Turks have come close to war 3 times in the last half-century, with disputes over both territory and human rights continuing to simmer between them. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
To recap the top stories, there's growing concern over the situation in Israel and the Palestinian territories after a significant escalation in violence. Britain's finance minister has dismissed talk of decline in the UK in a major economic speech. And International Holocaust Remembrance Day is being marked around the world to commemorate victims of the Nazis. That's the latest feature story news. Julia Chapman reporting.
Oops! What did he just say?
We at Safety FM don't always agree with the viewpoints of our hosts and guests.
Now back to real safety talk on Safety FM.
Don't go anywhere.
You're listening to the home of real safety talk.
You are listening to Safety FM. We'll be right back.
Do you have a claim and not sure where to turn? Coastal Claim Consultants are professionally licensed and bonded public insurance adjusters employed exclusively by you, the policyholder, to represent you after sustaining an insured loss. They assist policyholders in all aspects of processing the claim, working closely with the insured to provide the most equitable and timely settlement possible. They will provide you with comprehensive service, anything from inspecting the loss site, analyzing damages, compiling claim support data, reviewing applicable coverages, assessing replacement costs of damages, and negotiating your settlement. The adjusters at Coastal Claim Consultants will evaluate your claim for no upfront cost whatsoever. Coastal Claim Consultants' fee is based on contingency contracts and are paid when the insurance company sends you a check and it's in your possession. Coastal Claim Consultants are licensed to assist you in the following states: Florida, Texas, Oklahoma, Georgia, and South Carolina. For more information, go to coastal-cc.com. That's coastal-cc.com. For more information, lighting the way to recovery. Coastal Claim Consultants.
To some people, the sound of a baby babbling doesn't mean much. But that's not necessarily true. By 6 months, they're combining vowels and consonants. By 9 months, they're trying out different kinds of sounds. And by 12 months, their babbling is beginning to take on some meaning. Especially if there's no babbling at all. Little to no babbling by 12 months or later is just one of the possible signs of autism in children. Early screening and intervention can make a lifetime of difference and unlock a world of possibilities. Take the first step at autismspeaks.org. A public service announcement brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
The following is made possible by Dad.
Why was the basketball court all wet? Because the players kept dribbling all over it.
The dad joke. Corny, grown-worthy, but also one of the simplest ways to share a moment with your kids.
Why do you have to be careful when it's raining cats and dogs? Because you might step in a poodle.
And kids that spend more time with their dads grow up to be smarter, more successful.
Can I tell you a cat joke? Just kidding.
And with any luck, funnier adults.
Why didn't the skeleton go to the dance? Because he didn't have anybody to go with.
Dad jokes rule. So take a moment to make a moment and give your kid a laugh. It's as easy as going to fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
That's really funny.
Hey, are you tired of hanging around and talking about safety in a boring kind of format?
Well, I got something for you. If you haven't hung out with us yet at safetyfm.com, I'm going to encourage you to do so. Yeah, if you come out to Safety FM, you can come hang out with all kinds of safety professionals. Some are safety professionals, some are just people that are talking about safety. But we want to do it in a format that makes it fun and entertaining. If you're kind of trying to figure out what the FM portion is, well, we're a radio station and also a podcast network. You can come out, hang out, and listen to my show, The Jay Allen Show. You can listen to Todd Conklin with the pre-accident investigation, Blaine J. Hoffman with the Safety Pro, the Hop Nerd, Sam Goodman, just to name a few on what can be found on the station. Different things for different people, trying to bring safety in an entertaining form. SafetyFM.com. Go to the website, download the app, and carry it with you all day long. SafetyFM.com. We'll be waiting for you.
Prepare yourself.
We are now being distributed on iHeartRadio. Listen on iHeartRadio app. Radio Big.
Okay, let's go.
Trying to speed up all this time to decide if I'm right. But you know I wanna see you shine, but your light don't belong in my side or my home. No.
Okay, here we go. 42 minutes past the top of the hour. We are still hanging and banging on the Rated R Safety Show. Our numero uno of the Jay Allen of the Morning Show. So take a listen to this one right here. This one's called Hypnotized by Lucha. Song's readily available on Spotify, iTunes, and YouTube Music. You can take a little streamer-eamer of it if you'd like. We would like to thank Lucha for allowing us to play this here on the Rated R Safety Show. That's for sure. Okay, so let's get into the move and the groove of the things that are going on inside of this world, because all that's important to talk about. And if anything, let me tell you about the most important part that I will ever tell you in my lifetime, and that's about my friends at the National Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. They can help you prevent suicide. The Lifeline provides 24/7 free and confidential support for people in distress, prevention, and crisis resources for you and your loved ones, and best practices for professionals in the United States. To find out more information, all you have to do is go to 988lifeline.org. That's 988lifeline.org, or you can text the word TALK to 988 or call 988. Yes, that's the easiest ways to do those things. Believe me, they are there 24/7 for you. They are waiting for your phone call. Listen, before you decide to make the next move, give them a call before you do anything. Our lives all depend on it. Seriously. I know sometimes things can be extremely stressful and things do not seem well, and it's okay to have days like that, but you might also need someone to talk to. Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. They're available at 988lifeline.org, or call 988 or text the word TALK to 988. That's for sure. Let's get into some news real quick about some things that are going on inside of the multiverse of ours, because, hey, that's what we do around here. We talk about all the fun stuff that is going on inside of the worldo. So let's take a look around. Let's talk about some cheesy news. Yeah, many foods we assume are to be bad for us, including cheddar cheese and chocolate bars, can actually provide our bodies with significant health benefits. Lisa Young, registered dietitian at the New York University, points out that we tend to view foods as good or bad for us, but generally a small portion of any food is okay. When it comes to cheese, while it's high in calories, it does provide protein and calcium. So there is definitely a place in a diet for cheese. She also points out that health benefits of eating potatoes, peanut butter, eggs, butter, and yes, even candy bars, or at least ones containing dark chocolate. So, you kind of have to now hate her. I mean, it's one of those things to think about. Also, in some other news, some resources company Sleep Junkie is offering $1,000 for 5 people to eat cheese before bed. Those lucky enough to be selected will slice their way through several types of cheese each week and keep a record of their dreams and nightmares. Sleep Junkie is calling a self-starter honest with good writing skills and who enjoy both sleeping and eating to apply for the study, which will also take place between the month of March and May. Is that April then? Okay. The company says that the Dairy Dreamers will become our official cheese testers, providing honest feedback on how eating various kinds of cheese before bed impacts their sleep quality. Those who score the job will not only get paid $1,000, their cheese costs will be covered as well. Never mind the money, just throw in some eggs and we'll call it even. I mean, $1,000 at this point, what eggs cost. There's really some other things to think about.
We are now video streaming the Rated R Safety Show. I don't know why our host has a face for radio. Rated R Safety Show.
Okay, so take a listen to this. The mother of one of the University of Idaho students stabbed to death in November says that she's shocked that the attorney who was representing her is defending her daughter's accused killer. Michael Kastner has more info.
Charges in Idaho and had been represented by the Kootenai County Public Defender's Office. Early this month, the chief public defender withdrew as Northington's attorney and was assigned to defend the former Washington State University graduate student accused of killing Northington's daughter, 20-year-old Xana Kernodle. The 28-year-old man from Pennsylvania is also charged with murdering 20-year-old Ethan Chapin and 21-year-olds Madison Mogan and Kaylee Gonsalves. I'm Michael Kastner.
Boy, is that an interesting turn of events when you start giving it some thought there about exactly what's going on. But hey, who kind of controls that system? That's going to be the next question to ask. Anyways, a couple of New Jersey men are said to be sentenced today in connection with the Capitol riot death of a U.S. Capitol police officer from New Jersey. Scott Pringle has more information.
Brian Sicknick died a day after being pepper sprayed during the January 6, 2021 Capitol riot. Prosecutors say Julian Qatar used the pepper spray on Sicknick, which was bought by George Tanios. The medical examiner says the Capitol riot did play a role in his death. Prosecutors are seeking 7.5 years in prison for Qatar at sentencing. Officer Sicknick was raised in South River. Scott Pringle, NBC News Radio, New Jersey.
Okay, thank you, Scott Pringle, for the information there as we are talking. So let's take a listen to this. Some students in Cherfield County could be in for a big change. This is coming out of Virginia. Take a listen to this.
Board this week discussed ending the year-round schedules at Bellwood Elementary School and Falling Creek Elementary School. Students at those schools have been spreading 180 school days across the year, but district officials recommend returning to the traditional calendar. They cite feedback from stakeholders and academic outcomes for the proposed switch. The school board could vote to change the calendar at a meeting February 7th. I'm Richard Stelling.
It'll be interesting to see what happens there, because if you're accustomed to year-round school and then going back to the traditional schedule, that could cause some changes for the students and, of course, the parents all at one time. Anyway, a fully catered lunch in California ended up with a firebomb. Bree Tennis has more on this story.
A catering crew from Sabre Mexican Grill was setting up for a luncheon in Kearney Mesa. Moments later, one of their propane tanks exploded. 2 of the catering crew were caught in the middle of the fireball. They're now at UC San Diego's Burn Center. Fire Rescue says it's very rare for propane tanks to explode. An investigation is now underway. Bree Tennis, NBC News Radio.
Okay, thank you, Bree, for the information right there. Just imagine that for a moment, that all of a sudden you're hanging out and whoopah, you got that thing going on. You're probably going to have all kinds of questions as you are taking a look at it. Anyways, Oxnard police are stepping up their efforts to catch reckless drivers. Daniel Martindale reports.
Police department says it's been trying to weed out street racing and demonstrations this month. So far in January, officers have arrested 1 person for reckless driving and impounded 3 vehicles. The drivers are accused of doing donuts, burnouts, and other dangerous and illegal stunts on the street. Vehicles involved in reckless driving can be impounded for at least a month, and their drivers can face criminal charges and have their licenses suspended. I'm Daniel Martindale.
boy, does that make it some interesting times when you start taking a listen to that. Like, what the hell are you doing on the roadways there? That's for sure. Take a listen to this real quick. A nun is being praised for stopping a robbery attempt at the Western New York Poverty Center. Trey Thomas has the data.
Niece is the director of the Response to Love Center in Buffalo, which provides food, care, and other services to the needy. She heard a noise outside and saw a stepladder out of place. One robber fled while the other was forced to jump off the roof after she threw the ladder down. She told him, "This is God's property. Get out." And he did. I'm Trey Thomas.
Okay, thank you, Trey Thomas, for the information. Kind of puts an interesting curb on that one. Anyways, let's get moving and grooving real quick. Let's get you motivated with the Motivation Minute. Let's bring in some John Smalls inside of here and him tell you what the hell's going on.
The Motivation Minute is courtesy of InsuranceChicken.com. Today's quote was submitted by Dean. Maury Schwartz said, "The most important thing in life is to learn how to give out love and let it come in." What a nice quote. I love that we have several quotes about love right now as we're leading up to Valentine's Day. Love is tricky. I remember reading about the 5 love languages in a book by Gary Chapman. That was an eye-opener. Imagine if you and your loved one spoke different languages. You're saying I love you, but they have no idea because they can't translate. Make sure you're speaking the same language, or you at least know how to translate what you're saying and what they're saying. I'll tell you what, it works. If you'd like to find a copy of that book, I'll put a link to it at motivationminute.org. This has been today's Motivation Minute, courtesy of InsuranceChicken.com. They're known for insurance quotes. I'm John Small. Thanks for listening. Your favorite motivational quotes can be submitted for upcoming programs at motivationminute.org.
Your Wellness Minute is brought to you by AlessaMorgan.com. Abdominal fat is high in a type of adipose tissue called visceral fat, which is uniquely hormonally active and in this way contributes to chronic inflammation and cardiovascular disease risk. Visceral fat has a purpose, but too much of it is a pretty bad thing. If you don't want to have a lot of visceral fat, exercise combats it, but drinking alcohol, especially frequently, seems to promote it. Studies have shown that people who persistently drink generally have significantly more belly fat, and here's why it matters. Having a large waistline can double one's risk of dying prematurely even if your BMI is low. In a study of over 350,000 people, each 2-inch increase in waist circumference for a given BMI increased the mortality risk by 17% in men and 13% in women. For more information, check out AlessaMorgan.com.
Hello, I'm Richard Exley with your 1-minute devotion. Many people cannot bring themselves to forgive those who have wronged them because they have confused forgiveness with trust. Somewhere they picked up the idea that if they truly forgive, they will have to re-enter the same destructive relationship. Not true. Although David loved Saul and forgave him, he knew better than to trust him. It wasn't anger or unforgiveness that kept him from returning to Saul's service, but wisdom. We are commanded to forgive, but we are not commanded to trust them until they are proven trustworthy. Proverbs 25 said, like a bad tooth or a lame foot is reliance on the unfaithful in the time of trouble. Lord, help us to always be forgiving, but also discerning in whom we trust. Amen. If these devotions are a blessing and an encouragement to you, you can subscribe at OneMinuteDevotion.com.
Who truly cares what this guy has to say? Who gives a shit? Rated R Safety Show.
There you go. 54 minutes past the top of the hour as you and I are hanging out. So at the top of the hour, I will be going over to RadioBig.fm if you want to come and hang out and do the things that we get to do over there. Would love to see you come hang out for the next couple hours show. Just have to do the RadioBig.fm aspect, or you could actually go to iHeartRadio and find Radio Big. You know, it's a streaming service right there, and you can take a listen to us as we are doing our stuff live. Anyways, before I forget, let me tell you about the event that is going on in Santa Fe, New Mexico, our Safety Differently workshop. You can come hang out with Todd Conklin, Martha Acosta, Mark Yeston, and Bob Edwards, and of course yours truly will be there as we are doing a 4-day workshop, depending on how you want to take a look at that math. So there you go, March 6th through the 9th. You can find out more information at safetyfm.io, safetyfm.io. as we are moving and grooving over there. Would love to see you in Santa Fe as we are doing the things that we get to do. It's going to be a fun time. Some people have asked for agenda information. You can find that at safetyfm.io. When you go there, it'll give you a breakdown of what's going on each day. So there you go. Some fun stuff going on that side of the Aquajon. So let's talk about some things that happened back on this date. If I take a look around, and let's see, back in 2013, Magnus Carlsen wins the Tata Steel Chess Tournament at the age of 22 years old. He would become the new world chess champion later that year. That happened back in 2013. If you're looking at some birthdays to celebrate today, Bailey Zimmerman turns 23, Brandon Lemster turns 27, Freddie Carter 30, Rosamond Pike turns 44, Patton Oswalt 54, Alan Cummings, he turns 58 today, and Chris Collinsworth, yeah, that guy from Monday Night Football. He turned 64. Well, he was from Monday Night Football. Who knows what the hell he's doing nowadays? Also, if you're looking at some days of the year to celebrate, I have some of those for you. It's International Holocaust Remembrance Day, National Chocolate Cake Day. How come I feel like we celebrate National Chocolate Cake Day quite often? Are you sure that there's not multiple of these? Somebody needs to figure that out because I feel like I'm celebrating cake all the time. National Geographic Day, National Fun at Work Day, and National Breast Pumping Day. That seems like an interesting one to celebrate. I want some more data about that for I can have a better understanding of what I'm talking about. I mean, who am I to blame for wanting some more data for that? Anyways, if you need a random joke for today, I have one of those for you. To see a man's true face, look at a photo he hasn't posted. Are we sure that we're talking only about men here? Shouldn't it be more like humans? Maybe that's one thing to look at. Also, if you need a phone starter for today, try this. Time freezes for everyone except you for 1 day. What do you do? Think about that. Think about if you start off your next phone conversation with that question right there. What kind of answers will you get? And think about that for a moment. What would you do? There'd be so many options of things to do, that's for sure. Also, if you need something for the water cooler, try this. Over 95% of people agree this activity is not a good idea for a first date. What is it? Well, their answer is karaoke, but I had a lot of things that came to mind when I was saying that. But that's the answer. It is karaoke. So think about it in that fashion. Anyways, thank you for taking a listen to what the hell we have going on here today. Like I said, love to see you at the top of the hour going over to radiobig.fm. If you're listening on the delayed version, that might be the podcast version. So thanks for coming out, hanging out. And we will be back on Monday, of course, for us to do the things that we get to do around here. Always thank you for being the best part of Safety FM and Radio Big, and that is the listener, because without you, it would not make a lot of sense to do the things that we do around here. If I can't leave you with a thought for this weekend, I would love to leave you with this. The foolish man seeks happiness in the distance. The wise grows it under his feet. Put his or her there, however you want to take a look at it. Anyways, I know who you are.
Duh.
You know who I am. Love you, mean it, and goodbye. I hope you have a fantastic weekend.
The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the host and its guest and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the company. Examples of analysis discussed within this podcast are only examples. They should not be utilized in the real world as the only solution available, as they are based only on very limited and dated open source information. Assumptions made within this analysis are not reflective of the position of the company. No part of this podcast may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means, mechanical, electronic, recording, or otherwise, without prior written permission of the creator of the podcast, Jay Allen. Never wanted to hypnotize.